Hello everybody, welcome back to Beware the Terrible. Today we have a new deck for you called the Floating Cannon featuring our Sandaconda from Battle Styles. With the big Sand Cannon attack, allowing you to do 60x damage for each fighting energy card you discarded from the top 6 card of your deck. So discarding means we actually have to replenish our deck, otherwise we're going to mill ourselves to death. That means we need our energy recycler and our rod. That is why we have 2 copies of each of those cards. We're also playing our Drizzle in this deck to compress our deck. Not only that, the main strategy for this deck is not just to compress but also to bring out our energy cards with our Cotton Lift and then use our Caitlyn to put it back into our deck at the bottom of our deck so that we get out fresh new cards that are not energy cards with our Caitlyn. So Caitlyn is the main card that we are trying to use with our Drizzle. Drizzle, not only are you compressing your deck with your Drizzle and your level ball, you actually get to fast evolve all of your Drizzle and also a lot of your Eldegoss and your Sandaconda in play as well with your Breeder and your Drizzle combo. Not only that, it also allows you to get out your Caitlyn, which is the key card for this deck. Caitlyn allows us to put any number of cards in our hand, meaning we get to choose which card we get to put at the bottom of our deck with our Caitlyn. And then after putting those cards at the bottom, you get to then draw as many cards. That means we're actually arranging our deck in a very specific way, making sure all of our energy cards never get discarded unless it is discarded through this attack. So it doesn't get discarded from our hand with a quick ball because we don't have quick balls in this deck. It doesn't get discarded with a research. We are not playing research, so the only way we are discarding our energy is if we retreat or with our attack. So our attack allows us to discard for the damage. If we discard those energy cards for the damage, then we are actually conserving our energy only to use it, only to discard it when we are using the attack. So that is what we want to do, to be as conservative with those energy cards as possible with this deck. We are trying to arrange our deck in such a manner, in such a fashion that only energy cards remain and we draw out all of the other non-energy cards into our hand with our Caitlyn. So if we have a lot of Eldegoss in play, that means we actually get to draw out all of our energy cards into our hand, a lot of them. If we have 3 Eldegoss, we get to draw 6. That means after that, you get to play your Caitlyn with either a Drizzle or maybe if you have it in hand already, then you get to play your Caitlyn to put those energy cards at the bottom of your deck, draw out fresh new cards, use all of those cards out. If you have a lot of item, we do have a lot of item, not a lot of supporters, only 6 supporter cards in this deck. Only 9 supporter cards in the deck. We have our Sonya as well. So Sonya allows us to bring out our basic Pokemon because we do need a lot of basic Pokemons on our bench. They can Avery us. Avery is our is the main weakness for this deck. We are allergic to Avery because we are relying on a lot of our Drizzle and a lot of our stage 1 Pokemon's ability to be able to make this deck work. So if they play a lot of Averys, then this deck is not that good anymore. But if we evolve our Drizzle fast enough, then Drizzle doesn't need to stay on the bench anymore. So if they Avery at the wrong time, if they use Avery way too late, then it's gonna help us instead because Drizzle doesn't need to stay on our bench after we use the Shady Dealings ability. We have no Scoop Up Net, so we don't need to be bothered about Drizzle being discarded from our bench. So it's not really that important that Drizzle stays alive. We also have 3 Evolution Incense. We have a lot of item cards. That means if we draw out our item cards, you have to make sure to use up all of your item, all of your Pokemon cards, play them as many as you can from your hand because they can Marnie you, so we have to expect them to Marnie us. So after using your Caitlyn, you're gonna draw out cards that are energy, that are non-energy. So you're gonna draw out quite a lot of cards in your hand because after using your Cotton Lift, you're gonna have a lot of energy cards. That means you get to at least draw out a few cards that are not energy, And then once you do that, make sure you use up all of those item and Pokemon cards, play them so that you compress your deck even more, making sure you have no cards left in your deck but energies. So that way you actually not only get to shuffle your deck and then make sure those energy cards doesn't stay at the bottom. After using your item, you get to shuffle your deck. Not only that, you also get to, make sure you draw out all of the non-energy cards and compress your deck further, and also to make sure those cards doesn't get shuffled back into your deck, doesn't get put back into your deck with their Marnie. So if they Marnie us, they can't mess up our strategy. So this is what we want to achieve with our combo, our Eldegoss Caitlyn combo. This is the main combo that we are playing with this deck. Obviously, we are playing our meta Drizzle card as well. Drizzle helps us because this is all stage 1. Drizzle helps us evolve, helps us bring out our Caitlyn because we only have 4 copies of this supporter draw card. We don't have Snorlax, we don't have any other cards to draw from our deck. So we are actually relying fully on our Caitlyn and our Breeder and also our Drizzle to get out, to draw out cards from the deck. So this is quite confining in that sense, but we are playing 3 copies of our Drizzle. We are playing a lot of cards to bring out our basic Pokemon and our evolution cards as well, so it's not that bad, because actually all we need to worry about is to evolve all of our Pokemon and then use our main strategy. So the main strategy is to use Cotton Lift to bring out as many energies as you can into your hand. If you have a lot of energy cards, 6 or 7, then you get to draw 6 or 7 cards that are not energy cards from your deck. You know, after drawing those energy cards, you are actually increasing the chances of you drawing non-energy cards, because we don't have that many energy cards in this deck, only 20, but we are trying to use them as efficiently as we can, only to use them for the attack. So using Caitlyn allows us to arrange our deck in that specific manner. That means we actually get to draw out as if we put all 7 energy cards at the bottom of our deck, we are actually drawing out another 7 cards at the top of our deck. That means we are actually increasing our chances of drawing out non-energy cards, just because we have only 13 energy cards left in the deck. We are probably not going to draw them, all of them, into our hand. That means all that 7 fresh new cards is going to be, at least they're going to be 4 or 5 item or Pokemon cards. And after doing that, all you need to do is play all of them, making sure that you actually reduce the amount of non-energy cards in your deck, so that if your opponent Marnie you, then you actually still retain the ratio, the high ratio of energy cards to non-energy cards in your deck. So that's what we want to do, to increase that ratio, to make sure our deck comprise a high percentage of energy. So that's what we want to do, to shift the percentage by using our Caitlyn Cotton Lift combo. So Cotton Lift is a very, very strong ability. You get to search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards every turn, once during your turn for each Eldegoss that you have in play. If we have 3 in play, we get to draw out 6 energy cards. If we pass the turn without using a Caitlyn, that's fine, because if they Marnie us, they're gonna help us. You know, we don't even have to use a Caitlyn. All we need to do is wait for them to Marnie us. If we use our Caitlyn, is better, but if your opponent pass the turn a lot, if they waste their turn a lot early on in the game, then you don't actually have to use your Caitlyn. You can actually use it later on. You can actually pile up those energy cards in your hand before using your Caitlyn, because we only have 4 Caitlyns to spare in this deck. So don't use your Caitlyn until you need to. You know, if your opponent is a very fast deck, they charge up their Pokemon or attack very early in the game, then you actually have to use your Caitlyn fast to make sure you actually draw out your cards and compress your deck fast, so that you get to attack with Big Sand Cannon with as high damage as you can. So it actually depends on the matchup, which deck you're up against. But if they pass the turn a lot, as I said, you don't have to play your Caitlyn that early. You know, this deck is a slow deck, because we are evolving. We are relying on the ability to make this arrangement work, to make this strategy work. We have to evolve as many of our Eldegoss, as many of our Drizzle as possible, so that we compress our deck from those item cards, from those supporter cards as well, so that also we compress our deck from energy cards and then put them back into the deck with our Caitlyn, and also with their Marnie, if they Marnie us. So we are relying not only on our opponent's Marnie, but also on our Caitlyn. So if they don't Marnie us, if they probably are not going to Marnie us once they see a lot of energy cards in your hand, they are probably not going to be playing Marnies. But if they have no choice but to play that card, if that is the only supporter card that allows them to draw a card, then they have to play it, you know. So Marnie actually helps us, because we are putting all of those energy cards back into the deck. So the main trick to this deck is to make sure you evolve at the right times, you know, because this is a very slow deck that we are playing. I actually recommend you to sacrifice a few of your Silicobras and a few of your, you know, basic Pokemons, maybe Gossifleur, maybe your Sobbles as well, maybe your Drizzle. So sacrifice those cards early on in the game, because you are not playing a fast deck. We are playing a very, very slow deck. So those Pokemon helps us to stall, so that we actually can bring out our evolution Pokemon set up easily. Once we have all of our setup ready, once everything is ready to go, then we can evolve our Sandaconda and use the Big Sand Cannon. Don't have to worry about your Silicobra being dead, because you actually get to use your Rod later on. We have 2 copies of our Rod, so if you have to sacrifice your Silicobra, if they boss order your Silicobra, then you know, it's fine, because it's obviously better to sacrifice your Gossifleur or your Sobble, but we may need them for the ability, you know, because we only have 3 of each to spare. So it's actually better to just sacrifice your Silicobra, just because we have 4 of it. And you know, if you have it in your discard pile, you can actually still use your Rod for it. It's quite easy to bring out your Rod. It shows up pretty easily in your hand. So if you have your Caitlyn, then or if you may even use your Shady Dealings for your Rod. You know, if you have very few Silicobras in your deck, then obviously don't sacrifice your Silicobra, sacrifice your Gossifleur or your Sobble instead. So it's actually really confined in that sense. You actually have to select which Pokemon to sacrifice as the scapegoat so that you actually get to build your setup before you actually get to do a high damage with your Big Sand Cannon. We are focusing on doing as high damage as possible, 240 at least with this attack. With this one cost energy attack, we are doing 240 consecutively turn after turn. Once our setup is done, then we can do 3 or 4 hits of Big Sand Cannon. Usually I would get 300 at least, you know. Once my setup is ready, I can do 3 or 4 hits of 300. The last 2 or the last one is 360. So 360 is enough to kill any VMAX. So this is a very strong card here. But we are, as I said, using a very slow combo, a combo that takes a lot of time to set up. So we might not reach that optimum time for us to build our strategy before we die in the game. So obviously your opponent is going to be very fast in the standard format. If they play Urshifu, if they play a very fast setup formation, then we can't actually hope to win with this deck. So this deck is not that powerful in that sense because it's it's not that competitive yet. I've not found a way to make this deck work in the competitive meta yet because we actually are relying on those all those stage 1 abilities to make this deck work. So if we don't have our Eldegoss in play, we can't actually use our Caitlyn. If we don't have Caitlyn in hand, we can't actually use Sobble for the breeder card, for those evolution cards. We can't actually use Sobble for Caitlyn and those evolution cards at the same time. So that is the confinement for this deck. We also have Sonya as well. Sonya is a supporter card. That means if we draw them out with our Caitlyn, we can't use it. We can't use it to compress our deck further. We can't use it to shuffle our deck as well. So that is the main big issue with this deck, is that it's quite we are relying on stage 1 and we are relying on that slow setup. But other than that, once you have set up, once everything is done, once you're ready to go, your Big Sand Cannon is gonna do 300 damage every turn. So that's like super strong, and you can do at least 3 hits of Big Sand Cannon. Obviously, after doing 3 or 4, if you don't shuffle your deck, if you don't shuffle energy cards in your deck, you can't do more than 3 or 4. But if you use your energy recycler, if you're lucky enough to have them in your hand, you can do at least 4 or 5 hits with your Big Sand Cannon, 300 damage every turn. So that's how strong this deck is. So that's all for the deck review. Let's go ahead for gameplay. Gameplay will be silent so that everybody gets to focus. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Have fun. We'll see you on the next video and have a nice day. Bye guys.
Yeah.